Hello? We haven't started yet, so you don't have to say anything if you don't want to. Oh, nice. I'm glad you're here. I, Camerline, I don't remember your first name, but uh, you can provide some good examples.
Hi, I'm Karen. I didn't hear
Sure.
I didn't hear what was said before that. Just I heard my last name.
I couldn't remember your first name. That's all I said. This is supposed to be like a roundtable discussion, so I hope all of you are ready to roundtable discuss here in Zoom land. I don't know exactly what that looks like, but this is not where you go to get all the answers from one person. I used to do those kinds of sessions and got paid a lot of money, but I've given up those things. Just kidding. Ryan, where are you from?
Hey, I'm here at the College of Nursing with CU entrance.
Uh-huh. All right, very nice. As a faculty, as an instructional designer?
Instructional designer.
Uh-huh. Well, you're in the right place, boy. We're just going to come up with all the answers today. Laura Z, how about you? Where are you
Hello.
from?
I am from uh, Colorado Community College System Central Office
Wow,
as
nice.
a learning designer.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Great. So lots of people to touch out there, I would imagine. That's a good thing.
We have 13 colleges in our system.
I worked just north of the Maricopa Community College District for many, many years, and lots of my heroes were from that space. And I think it still may be the biggest, but I think it and Dade were the two biggest in the country, if I remember correctly, for some time.
Yeah, it's a lot of juggling balls and figuring out which ones are glass and which ones are plastic.
Great. Let's see. Sally, where are you from?
Hi, I'm Sally Cordray. I work at the Community College of Denver and I'm the Professional Development Coordinator.
Oh man, nice. Okay, well that's good. Um, Thomas B, what do you do? Where are you? Where are you from? Okay, we'll move on. Shauna? Oh, I see. New Mexico instructional design something. Are you with us here, Shauna?
Yeah, sorry, I was just trying to find my microphone and get on here, and I missed the question, so sorry about that.
Just I sort of answered it for you just by your avatar there. I could see you're from New Mexico and you're in instructional design, so that was good.
That's me.
Excellent. And you are an instructional designer or manager or director or something?
Oh, senior instructional designer, and I also work with outcomes and assessments. So I am working actively with the department heads and the departments to align their program learning outcomes all the way down through their courses and make sure the whole package is nicely wrapped up to get data measurement happening for them. So
Great. Tolu, where are you from? What do you do?
Hi, I'm an educational developer at California State University, Long Beach.
Ooh, nice. I was just in Port Hueneme for a week, just north of you there. Um, Michael Porterfield, can you tell us what you do, where you are?
Sure. I'm from McKendree University in Lebanon, Illinois. So it's probably about a half hour outside of St. Louis. Our largest point of interest is Scott Air Force Base. It's the home of the joint. They move everything around. And I am the kind of like a two-person shop. It's my coworker and I. We manage our Brightspace instance, all our third-party products. We also do work with faculty and students to problem solve, and also do instructional design too. So
Okay. Uh, Thomas, are you back? Thomas B? All right. If you are there, let us know. So this is supposed to be a round table. I don't know if you knew that when you signed up. And, this is new to me in Zoom. I can picture us sitting at a round table where we're all looking at each other in the eyeballs. But as you've probably heard from teachers, getting everybody to look at each other in Zoom land is a little challenging. I have learned that it's oftentimes the faculty who are largely responsible for that in their meetings because they model no cameras on for a variety of excellent reasons. But anyway, I signed up to do this as a roundtable because I wanted to hear about success stories, possibilities, challenges that people in the field of trying to help faculty navigate the world of teaching today have bumped into in their work. It seems to me to be more challenging today than it was 15 years ago 18 years ago when I started being an instructional designer. At that point in time, it seemed like the faculty were thirsty for new things and wanting to expand their capability, oftentimes, of course, digitally, because they were hearing words like online learning, and they were probably being told things like you might have to teach this class online, and that worried them because they didn't know what it was. So they wanted to learn, and people like me were very popular, right? Because we knew stuff that they needed to know. It made delivering things really simple because they wanted what we had. Nowadays, you can just Google all this stuff and and that's our behavior in a lot of ways, right? Like, I'm not going to look at our university website and try to find the teaching and learning center, which is buried like 8 clicks deep, and to find like some, teaching strategy. You can Google it and have like every university in the world's answer right in front of you. So it just makes it more challenging. Plus, of course, there was COVID. Everybody basically retreated. Now there's all kinds of other challenges in the world. So people are retreating. And yeah, and I just feel like it's a harder sell. All our faculty are hearing all the new things that they have to do in addition to all the things that they were struggling to do, and they got more students in their classes. And so Todd's out there trying to sell them good new ideas, and it's just really tough. I have, in my short history, 18 years of doing this, I've done some good things. Like, I feel really lucky that I came up with some interesting ideas that seem to work. Karen? I'm sorry. That's so lame. Did I forget your name again already?
No, you got it.
Okay,
You can
I'm just gonna share one success story that if I had the courage, I would do it again today. I'll share 2 links with you here. The first one is like, I think 40 videos, and the second one was I tried to do it here at the University of Washington, and I just couldn't get it together. I don't know why. Here was the idea. I thought that if I sent an email every single Monday morning to faculty with something in it that they could easily and quickly consume and maybe learn something, I would win, right? And so I did. I mean, the title of the email was always the same, the subject line every week. And it was like literally maybe 2 sentences of stuff and then a link to a video. And that link went to one of these videos in here, and they were literally all like around 58 to a minute and 3 seconds long. That worked. Like, we got lots of conversations started. People were talking about them. People were suggesting topics, and they wanted them because it could be over in a minute. We could almost all survive something that's a minute, right? I had an idea when I got here that was a little more expansive, but not expansive. It was just, I didn't want to make just a video of somebody talking and a screenshot anymore. So I did something slightly different, right? And so in these videos, I'm actually out in the world trying to explain something. And I thought that could work well. They were still really short. So that was good. But it had some good qualities, right? Like, they were consistent, they were delivered repeatedly on the same time, on a schedule. They were consumable, and they shared something that, at least at that moment in time, was valuable. I still think this idea, whether it's a 4-week long thing or a year-long thing, or something consistent like that, could work. Karen did a session earlier about some accessibility and UDL things. Global Accessibility Week is, I think, in May. With GAD, doing a series of just 4 videos for that month on accessibility, where people expect those things to come on a Monday morning, that could work. So that's one thing that I have that did seem to work. Todd doesn't have the courage to do it right this minute anymore, but it could work. Anybody having success with things today that are working well in their work as professional development people? Okay, Tolu?
So I'll
You're
share
up.
something that I did last spring and then something that I'm going to start next week, and hopefully it goes well. So we'll see what happens. Last spring we did an AI no prep book club. So we had meetings once a week, once every other week. Sorry, once a week, every other week, 6 times. And we used the book ChatGPT Assignments to Use in Your Classroom Today, which has just very short, like 1 to 2 page descriptions of different ways that instructors might want to have students explore ChatGPT. But the way we designed the session was, it was part book club, part workshop. So they would come to the session. I'd have them do some sort of quick activity in the beginning that related to the topic of the session. And then we would have tinker time, where they could just choose some of the assignments in the book that they wanted to read about and try out in an AI tool of their choice. We did about 20 minutes of just independent exploration, and then we would talk for about 30 minutes and discuss the implications for teaching and learning. And then we transitioned with, I typically shared like 1 resource of the week that they might want to look at, because I know that we are all overwhelmed with AI resources at this point. But the feedback was really good. I think they enjoyed having the opportunity to just kind of play and then have real conversations with others about both, the benefits that they saw, the drawbacks, the struggles, challenges, all of that. And the book was called ChatGPT Assignments to Use in Your Classroom Today. It was all via Zoom. So we had all 6 meetings via Zoom. And then one other thing that I'm planning to start next week, and we'll see how it goes, is doing podcast discussion groups, where we'll listen to a podcast episode related to teaching, learning, or technology, and then we'll come together and talk about it. So yeah.
Wow, I love it. Yeah. So, and it was all on Zoom. So I just want to, if we can kind of capture some of these ideas in the chat here, we could save the chat or something, and have some of these visible if we're not, like myself, not a note taker. So 6 weeks on Zoom. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, excellent. Book that had short chapters. Now, I like that. And then not providing them with a list of 40 other books to read at the end. That's a good one too. That's the additional resources that very few people, or optional lessons that most people don't do. Excellent. I love it. Anybody else have some ideas that have worked recently or things they're going to try? That's a very good thing to talk about too, things you're going to try.
I'll just share since you were at my last session or at the last session. We are doing one pagers once a week. Kind of graphically organized one-page documents that we post on our common server that you use to access everything at our college, but also in the LMS. How well it's working, it is one of those things you throw something out into the ether and you just hope that someone it's sort of like listening for aliens or something. Hopefully someone is paying attention and picking up on it and making a change. It's a little tough to measure.
Yeah, measurement's an interesting thing. I have some challenges with measurement other than like conversations or narratives, but I've never been in a position where anybody wanted data from me necessarily that I couldn't get for them. Okay, good one. Anybody else? Because I have other ones, but I definitely want to make this like people feel like you can share like maybe what's not working or why it's not working. How do we know these things?
Sure.
Newsletter.
I can share. Can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, I'm in a public place, so I'm not sure. Okay, good. So my name is Heidi Normandin. I'm at the American Indian College Fund, and I am a senior program officer for faculty development, which means that I support the 1,600 faculty located across 34 different tribal colleges across the country, and they are completely overextended, overwhelmed, overworked for low pay, working in often very rural and even remote places. So the faculty that I support are just, they need all of the support that they can get. And so I have tried to, like all of you, create bite-sized, very easily digestible, serve you up on a platter, different webinars, workshops, one-pagers, convenings, different opportunities, do a lot of publicity. So I'm sending email blasts and reminders and finding champions at each of the institutions so that they can help spread the word, so that once we do put some sort of event on, that we are getting people registering for it. I'll just highlight one thing that we've been doing lately is the last 3 semesters. I've been pulling together a professional development workshop series focused on a theme that I know that they really are interested in. So the one I just completed last week was a 3-part series on online teaching. So a lot of the faculty, they might have a master's degree, but like no teaching background, because these institutions are very similar to very small community colleges. So these faculty members may be community members. So anyway, we just completed a 3-part workshop series on online teaching. 90 minutes seems to be the sweet spot. So they were held 1 month apart for 90 minutes. And we in particular need to provide opportunities for them to network. So we had breakout rooms because they don't meet people from other institutions. So anyway, that has been what's working for us. And we do a lot of surveying to understand what their needs are, and a lot of one-on-one conversations. We have an annual faculty convening. So we just work really, really hard to understand what they need and then just try to serve it up to them as easily, as simply as possible. And then of course we post all the recordings on a very easy to access website. That's what I got.
I love it. That's great. That's great. And yeah, the time apart is interesting, like every week, like once a week for 3 weeks versus 3 months where it's once a month. Do people forget? Do they tend to drop off more quickly because there's more space between them, or not? Do they stay more engaged? Are there any expectations between you know, between the sessions for them to do that is shared and visible to the other people in the group. Yeah, I'm working in a group of newish people to this field, and of course they just talk constantly about when should we do it? You know, when's the right time? And I just don't think there is any of that anymore. Like it, I mean, there are like, don't do it on the first day of school. Maybe don't do it during finals week. Don't have your big 1-day PD event like during finals or whatever. There are some places not to do it, but yeah. Okay. I'm going to share another one and then we can keep going. I'm going to share this one specifically because I literally just found it and I'm super excited because it was updated a month ago. So I thought it would be useful for our faculty to share the ideas that they had about teaching and learning with one another. I know that sounds revolutionary, right? But you know, nobody was writing about teaching and learning at our college that was available on the internet, right? Why don't we do that? So we devised a thing where we said, we're going to give you a pint of Ben & Jerry's ice cream if you write like 25 sentences about teaching and learning and put it on a thing called a blog. And we're going to take that thing and put it on this one blog using an RSS feed so that everybody can see what everybody else wrote. And we're going to keep giving you things for 9 weeks. 1 week seemed like maybe something could happen, right? But it turned out that it went on for almost 10 years and we had 12 to 20 people participate every year that we did it. But it was 9 pieces of writing, 25 sentences or more every week for 9 weeks. And we literally gave them Ben & Jerry's ice cream the first week. That was a hit. This site is, you know, it was such a good idea that I got to go wander around at conferences and tell people about it. And it did work. Other people did it at their institutions. And just now, I opened one of the links and saw that last month on March 7th, somebody at a community college in Arizona posted, Richard Klaus, posted on the site they've used for their version of this. They didn't want to do 9 weeks, so they did 6, but same idea, right? But it's really interesting to see like that much faculty stuff. Thanks for participating. Excellent job. It's interesting to see faculty share and write about their experiences in an open public space. And I think that hopefully for all of us will help us use the internet in a more constructive way, as a way to share anyway. So the idea here was get faculty to share the stuff they do and share it with their colleagues, and in these cases, anybody who cares to go find it and read it. That worked. I think that it still could work today. I'm not sure that, you know, yeah, all this stuff just seems harder, and I guess that's why I wanted to hear what other people are doing. Because I don't know if I could pull that on, but these people are down there in Maricopa or at the Glendale, they're still doing it. So there is possibility there. Anybody else have some ideas or things they want to talk about or have questions about anything we've talked about thus far?
I would just say that I think that because I work across institutions, but I've also worked at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, that the culture of the institution and even the department really, I think, influences the engagement of faculty in different professional development opportunities. So if you can find those champions to help spread the word, but I think sometimes you're just beating your head against the wall and you maybe need to focus on where you're getting the biggest bang for your buck in terms of investing in providing resources and information.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one of the things that I know, and I don't know how large your institutions are or the kind of relationships you have with people. We got a new chancellor here at our institution, and about 6 months later, I went to go find her, and I asked her what she knew or her experiences with online learning. So she said she didn't have any. So I said, well, how about if I got a couple of our faculty to share their experiences with online learning to maybe better inform her about what some of these things are, right? Because what I also knew was that a lot of our deans didn't have a lot of experience with that. And so this is what it looks like when a chancellor and two faculty hang out together and talk about an online course, which is on the big TV thing there on the left. But it was super amazing. And it costs no money. I don't know if it had like global impact, local impact. I kind of don't care. I know that the faculty that are sitting there were super uh, excited to be able to share, and they felt good about themselves for being asked to be in that 3-person little group, you know? Um, and that kind of stuff just doesn't happen that often. And it literally did happen in this case because I simply walked into this person's office and somehow managed to get around the front receptionist and said, "Hey, my name's Todd. Welcome to Bothell." You know? Yeah, so that's another one of those interesting things where it's hard to measure that, right? But I do know both of the faculty were like super happy. They felt like so good about it. They were really worried at first, but they ended up just feeling like they knew things and shared things that were really valuable in teaching and learning. Okay. Student panel. We just finished one of those. That's always a good one. Yep. Students feel good, faculty feel good. Not many of them showed up, but the ones that were there were super engaged, and it was amazing.
And I would just say our students ended up saying what we were hoping they would say was important to them about instruction and class experiences and such, like good feedback and all those things. They said it totally unprompted, and it just provided a really nice way for folks to hear what we wanted them to hear without hearing it from us.
That, I'll go back to the 9x9x25 thing, and honestly, at this point in my work, the best thing I can do is get a faculty member to spend some time to express something they're passionate about in the field of teaching and learning, and take whatever that thing is, a podcast, a video, a piece of writing, some pictures, and put it somewhere where other people can look at it and read it or hear it or experience it. Nobody listens to Todd. you know and I've become kind of good at leveraging that, right? Like I really try hard these days to essentially get other people to do my work. So I have some more examples of that, but I really, Sarah, welcome. One person I know here from Oregon, if I remember correctly, although I can't remember.
Yeah, hello.
Hello. Yeah, so what else? Sarah, we're talking about things that work, professional development opportunities. Like, What do you do to get faculty to learn stuff about teaching and learning or whatever? Anybody else have ideas?
Well, and as we mentioned in the other session, it kind of depends on when you're trying to hit those faculty. If you know, faculty orientation or those kinds of things, new faculty orientations, you kind of have a captive audience. They're often required to complete those trainings for teaching. And so you can impart certain information there. And so in some ways you could consider that successful. But then also the fire hose effect in that moment means that they kind of forget. And so I think what's key about that moment is establishing the relationship of safety so that they will be vulnerable enough to potentially come for help or participate in other activities later.
It's all about the relationship, right? Like that, I agree 100%. Okay, I got another one if nobody's going, so I'm going to give you like 8 seconds. Okay, so if you've been in the business, you probably met people at conferences back in the day, or you visit their websites, or you read their book, or whatever. I got super lucky early on to get connected to people who were deeply connected, so I got connected to their connections, and I just started to know people, and that has proven incredibly valuable. I probably am abusive in the way I leverage some of those things in these relationships, but many times I can just ask people to do stuff and they're like, okay. Once upon a time, I asked a woman named Bonnie Stewart, who works way up in Canada in the eastern part of Canada, if she would talk to our faculty about something, because I was doing these monthly epiphany sessions, which is another example I'll do later on. But she said no, but maybe her husband would be interested. Her husband happens to be a guy named Dave Cormier, who's like pretty well recognized in the field of digital teaching mumbo jumbo. And I got to thinking like, well, what if both of them would kind of do something? And then I thought, well, what if I got 3 faculty from some other university to say something smart, thanks, Melanie, to say something smart about teaching and learning, and I got 3 faculty from my institution to say something smart about teaching and learning, and that we did like a 2-hour long sort of, here's some teaching stories, right? So this is what that looks like. So Google site, YouTube videos, right? It was amazing. And it worked. It worked well enough that later on, a couple of years later, or year later or so, I thought I would try it again. And this version of it was done during the month of November this last year when everything was crazy. But it just happened to be the National Writing Month. So I don't know if you're familiar with the National Writing Month, something, but it takes place in November, and the idea is that everybody does lots of writing in November. But I got connected to a person at the University of Glasgow, and this is what that looked like. So I think there were 18 faculty total, 8 from Washington and 8 from Scotland. And they worked together to write or create something around the topic of creative pedagogies. Do you know how much this cost our institution to run this program? Exactly $0. Pretty interesting. And a lot of our faculty made new friends, learn new things, work together with people across the Atlantic Ocean, and mostly all had great things to say about it. And it's all because somebody thought, boy, wouldn't it be fun if these people worked together? And they did, right? So one thing that has worked for me post-pandemic has been the way I interpret this is sort of like almost a novelty. It's like, oh, work with somebody from another country. That's interesting. And what is a creative pedagogy anyway? What is that thing, you know? So these kind of weird ideas that, I don't know, are intriguing in a way, that's worked for me. Yeah, the Glasgow folks were doing it again next year. That's how successful it was, or this year. So that's how successful that was. Again, it's publicly available, gets shared with all of our faculty here via email, it's all publicly visible stuff. The woman over there that I wrote with, we actually sent in, and I suggested this to everybody, but not everybody is all that able. You might get a pop-up on this from, I don't know if you're familiar with Faculty Focus, but what we did we wrote, and a piece of what we wrote got placed into a Faculty Focus article. So that was kind of fun. Something to put on your resume. This is true. Yeah, same faculty over and over. I guess, yeah. What do you do about that? Right? I mean, how long's that been going on in human history? Like, has it just always been that way? And are we going to try to change it in some fashion? I don't know. I think things can come and go, ebb and flow. That's probably normal. Yeah. Anyway.
The only thing I'll say about that though is I have an example of a faculty member who really needed to hear what needed to be heard, and they never came to anything. And then one day we were talking and he goes, well, I watched your video. And I had no idea. But he had watched it, that was a year ago. And he's like, and I'm still trying to do this. And so sometimes I think it's sort of like students. We're not really sure what they're absorbing because it seems passive, but in reality, they're potentially more active.
Yeah, I know. Well, you don't. I can't tell you how many times I've said the same thing to the same faculty every year for, 6 years, right? It's the same question, but if they only do it one time a year, that you don't learn something doing it once every year, yeah. Anybody else have questions or comments or ideas that they would like to share that seem to have worked? Because I have another one. I know. No? All right. I gave up all my vices except coffee, pretty much. So I'm a little notorious for my coffee consumption. So I'm going to share the next idea, which happily for Todd in this world is location-based. So we have a nice office. We have coffee maker. I can buy cookies. Unfortunately, I can't explain to my bosses the need to buy cookies or coffee, but it seems to draw people in. So I happily pay some money every once in a while to buy cookies for our faculty. But the little card that's in the center there went and was placed a week or two before the start of the quarter in everybody's mailbox. I printed them on our local printer. Took me about, I don't know, 30 minutes to make the thing and probably 20 minutes to print 100 of them and chop them up. And then I walked around every faculty office and all the buildings with the mailboxes and put those things in there. And people come to get coffee and cookies. And invariably, they want to talk Canvas or something else, right? You know, during COVID, we extended this into the Zoom landscape, right? With no cookies, obviously, which was cheaper for Todd, but it wasn't the same. But it, you know, one of our challenges is visibility. I've always felt like visibility is a challenge for me and our work. And this gets people in the door because you're giving them free stuff. And we do it at the beginning of every quarter here. That seems to work. Unless nobody, even if it doesn't work, it works because I get the coffee and I get the cookies. Is there anything better than that? Yeah, offside brown, but nice. Yep, that's a good one. Good one. Anybody do versions of that? You know, something in donuts or something in health food or something in tea. I don't know. Canvas coffee and cookies always seemed, the alliteration always was attractive. Okay, we have 10 minutes for at least a few more ideas. Because I have one more. Anybody else have a fun idea to share? Something they want to do? A spa day. Nice. I like that. I get it. That's a good one. Oh my gosh. I would love to do that idea around like digital literacy. It's killing me these days. And I can't tell if it's just me or what. This is my work inbox. That last one, that email is the last email in my inbox. I'm kind of freaking out because I got 5 emails in my inbox. I am vicious with my inbox. It's like if I have more than 2 or 3 at the end of the day, I'm unhappy. And I think ultimately that's a healthy thing for me because I'm on the email, I'm doing it, I'm organizing it a little bit. I don't even organize it that much. But yeah, spa day dedicated to like organizing your digital self, whether that's LinkedIn or your C Drive or your Google Docs. That's a good one, Michael. I like it. Yeah. Yeah, we used to do day-long gigs. Haven't done that since COVID. We haven't recovered that piece of the work since COVID. All right. So I don't know about your institutions, but here at the University of Washington, Bothell, we used to have, this is 9 years ago, a fairly robust onboarding process for new faculty, and that included part-time faculty. Vice academic affairs people left, the teaching and learning center disintegrated, then it sort of came back later on. But all these things led us to like, who's in charge of onboarding all the new faculty, right? So we're still sort of that way. We have a better plan at this point, but it's still a little messy. Before I came up here from Arizona, I had an idea right before I left that was that we were going to give the new faculty a book that was written by existing faculty, specifically addressing things that they wish they would have known when they were onboarded. Like things nobody told them, right? About teaching, about HR, about who knows, right? But really about teaching. That was my goal. And in my head, what I saw was a small book with, short pieces of writing about some, working with challenging students or whatever the topic was. But what I really wanted to see in the book was a nice picture of the person who wrote the stuff. And underneath that, a sentence or four inviting the new faculty to come and talk to them with maybe their office address or their office phone number or their email address. So that when the new faculty was reading this little book, they would read something that says, hey, I'm super happy to have you here. We're really excited. Please come visit me in my office anytime. That was really what I was after. Well, here's what the book looks like. And it looks exactly like what I would have thought, but it didn't have the part of that invitation to the new faculty. So I had left the school just months before this actually got done. And I think had I been around, I would have pushed for that a little bit harder because that was a really important part to me. Like, they can get those words from anywhere on the internet, but what they can't get is an invitation for, from somebody saying, hey, let me be your pal. And, I can help you navigate this new job you're in, right? But I do think that's something that has, and there could be versions of that. Like this one's about things like for new faculty, first day or whatever. It could be about things I learned during COVID. That would have been a great topic, things I learned about online learning during COVID. Things I learned about online learning during COVID that I need to forget. that would be a really good one. Okay, we got 5 minutes. Any questions? Any thoughts? This is interesting. Let's just stop the stuff about like PD and stuff for a second and talk about the notion, because this is a good one. The notion of having a roundtable discussion for a conference in Zoom. Does that work? I mean, I've been doing most of the talking, so clearly in this instance, we're not really having like a discussion, but why not? How do we solve that challenge, right? Anybody have any ideas?
I mean, it's sort of trite, but one of the previous presenters used a lot of polls during and wove it directly into what it was she was saying. And it takes a certain amount of guts to speak up or even chat in a Zoom, because you kind of feel like you're taking over, but you don't want to. Well, I'm just trying to be polite. But no, it's a round table, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm just not sure, honestly, like if there were only 4 of us in here, we might all have our cameras on, maybe. And this is, I think this is a really interesting discussion these days is with Zoom in general and hybrid, high flex. I mean, all of these things. Yeah. I think it's really a challenge for all of us to try to figure out what this means.
It absolutely is. And one other thing that I would want to say, and again, I'm the moderator. I'm not supposed to be talking, but
yes, you are. You gotta participate too. I'm glad you are.
Yeah, well, I'm also an instructor and I do instructional design, and Kay just hooked me into this. Hey, Kate. Anyway, the other thing to combat, going back to PD or just reaching out to instructors in general, because I was a program chair, I did hiring and firing and all that stuff, is a fear of committing with a time commitment. Oh, but I'm so busy. How do you combat that? And one thing that you were saying, tiny little bite-sized videos, sentence or two, first you lure them in but anyway. So you do, it's very much marketing. I once started a very mild Twitter slap fight because I said that part of teaching was marketing. But it is. It absolutely is.
I totally agree. I 100, yeah, 100%. Well, I hope all of you find things that you feel are being effective, and I hope that in those spaces they are like rewarding personally to you as somebody creating things, somebody who has a spirit inside of you that gets expressed in a way that you feel like is impactful in some way. You know, I think that's one thing I also feel at this point in my career is that I am able to be creative in my work, and that feels good to me, selfishly good to me, but I need that, especially these days. But I hope you're able to reach people, and I hope that they let you know that you're doing amazing work and valuable work, and that you feel like you're you know, respected in this world of helping people have better schooling experiences, you know. Okay, that is it. You guys be good.
Thank you, Todd, for helping lead this conversation. So appreciate everything you've shared.
You're welcome. Kate, thanks. You guys be good. Thank you.